So today is Friday, and it is Vov Tammuz, Tavshin Ayin Gimel. We're in Teres Menachem, Sefer HaMamorim, Tavshin Yud Aleph, Tavshin Yud Beis, in the last Maimer of Tavshin Yud Aleph, Shabbos Pashas Nitzavim Chav Ches Elul, Tavshin Yud Aleph, on page Kuf Lamed Zayin, Ois Hey, at the top, beginning of Ois Hey. I believe we started already, I say, but we'll go back to the beginning of what I say. The Rebbe here is discussing the idea of the bonding of Eidos and Kelim, right? The power to give and the power to withhold. He spoke about that on a number of levels. Eidos and Kelim, Kav and Tzimtzum, the Nefesh HaLekis and the Nefesh HaBamis. Lights and vessels, the line of Ein Sof that Hashem drew in after the Tzimtzum, and then the godly soul and the animal soul. And also, of course, Hashem and Elokim, Kishem Shemag and Hashem Elokim. That's what he's discussing. And the idea basically that he's addressing is the fact that they seem to be opposites, they're opposing forces, and nevertheless, they work together, because these are the building blocks of the Sfiris, of Seder Stalshalus. These are the building blocks of existence, right? And they work together. And the Rebbe explained that not only do they work together, but they work harmoniously together. Because each one is drawn to the other, notwithstanding the fact that they are opposing forces. And the reason is because from their inception, they each feel the kavanah. The purpose is to reveal godliness into the world, so that the world can handle it. And therefore, the light lends itself to be regulated by the Keli. The Keli also understands that it needs to, of course, regulate the light, but not completely conceal it, but rather allow it to flow through it. And the light reveals within the Keli its special quality, and the Keli appreciates that, etc., etc. Now the Rebbe addresses the fact that this also happens with the Nefesh HaLekis, Nefesh HaBamis, the godly soul and the animal soul, that they fuse and bond together. And the Nefesh HaBamis allows the Nefesh HaLekis, the animal soul, allows the godly soul to clothe itself in her, as it were, and to become filled with the forces of the godly soul. But the ultimate intention, says the Rebbe, is that not that the Avodas Hashem, serving Hashem, should be merely by and with the internal faculties, but we also need to reach those faculties which are beyond finding expression normally and usually through the Kelim, through the Eidos and Kelim in a pnimius, in an internal way. We have to reach those levels that are beyond the Rotzen, the Tainug, and so on and so forth. And those should operate also through the inner mode of operation, as it were.
Before you go into the whole thing about Nefesh HaLekis, Nefesh HaBamis, one thing that I didn't pick up very clearly was how you were saying how the aspect of the ability but some saying to restrict comes from a higher level than the power of revelation, which was, to me, very hard to understand, because you have to say that really the revelation has to start off much higher. It has to be for anything to be anything, to be able to be on that level. So maybe we can just go through that before you can go through about the Neshamas.
Morning. The expression that Rebbe used where's the expression that Rebbe used? Here it is. Yeah, the expression that I've used is on page Kuf Lamed Daled. That the Eir feels, detects the special quality that the Keli possesses. What is the Maila, what is the special quality that the Keli possesses? Is that its source is from the ability not to shine, that has greater strength and greater force than the ability to shine. That's the expression that I've used. That's a quote from Ein Beis and other places. I think it could be explained like this. What you would expect from Eir is that it should be revealed. That's what Eir is. Right? Eir me'ein hamoir. Eir is similar and like the luminary. And what you expect from it is to illuminate. And like you say, where does that come from? As soon as there is the ability, you would think, as soon as there is the luminary, there is the illumination, as it were. Who has the ability to restrict that? How can that be restricted? If it's so powerful and it's so high, therefore it follows that the ability to restrict that revelation must be beyond it. Otherwise, how could you restrict it?
But if you talk about a lower level, there must be a level above, before the...
But at any point, when you say tzimtzum, right? Tzimtzum. Tzimtzum means removing the illumination.
Mm-hmm.
So to remove something, you must be stronger.
No, I understand.
That's point one. Point two, that's so far as having the ability to restrict the revelation, right? Point two, the ultimate purpose of creation is right? God desired to have a dwelling place in the low realms. That low realm, where is that created from?
So
Where does it come about?
I understand, it inherently means it's starting all the way up top.
Correct. So in other words, you're talking about something which is mushrash in atzmus, which is rooted in the very essence of Hashem, higher than that. Because otherwise, yesh comes into being, yesh as we know it, comes into being only because atzmus.
You'd have to say that everything is actually equal in
Okay.
unity.
So the point
But
is
the
this.
desire to create this manifestation in the way it is that way around. So it's two different things. I mean, obviously everything has to be equal out there. You can't even discuss the differentiation.
Of course.
But since Hashem had a desire to create something which he wasn't and where he could be revealed, that desire is the highest.
That desire causes, yes, okay.
That's
But ultimately,
that's the point.
But ultimately, as it comes down into two distinct forces,
Wanted effulges, if there's such a word.
yes. So then what happens? But then you must say that the withholding force is stronger than the revealing force. Interestingly, there is a
Only as it comes down. Not
Correct.
Not at its original point.
For the
an
time.
original point, and Atzmus is no differentiation.
Only as it comes down.
There's no differentiation whatsoever, right?
Because the light itself is also a man.
Well, the whole discussion is only when it comes down because otherwise, what's the question? How do they fuse together? How do they bond together? How do they operate together?
The word light as opposed to talking about Hashem, but it also has a fineness because we can't. There is no light. Hashem is just infinite. So we use the word light and darkness. They, in a certain sense, they all have a finite connotation to us.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
You have to have a word to look it on.
Right.
There's an expression in the Avedis HaKedesh that says, "Kishem sheyesh lekech bevilti bal gvul kach yesh lekech begvul she'im I ata emek ata machas shlemus." It's not exactly the same notion here, but if you listen to the phrase, it sort of points in that direction. Just like he has the ability, just like he has ability in the limit in limitlessness, so too he has the power of limit. Because if you say that he does not, then you're sort of diminishing his wholesomeness. So naturally you would say blikvul. Blikvul means give. Hang on a second, but what about withholding? True blikvul means that he has limitlessness and limit. Okay? But as it comes down, the power to withhold is stronger, as it were, than the power to reveal.
Doesn't this mean that Yesh Me'ayin says that nothing is greater than something? So if Yesh comes Me'ayin,
Well, then you're going into yes, of course. But what are we talking about? Which ayin? Hashem. Who's the true yesh? It's only yesh me'ayin from our perspective. From his perspective, it's ayin yesh. Das Tachten, the perspective is yesh me'ayin. From Das Elyon, the perspective is that it's ayin, that the l'mayla yesh or l'mata ayin, right? But we're talking about the ultimate expression of the yesh. We had a discussion about this in one of the previous shiurim in Das Elyon, Das Tachten, right? So the ultimate expression of the yesh, as we know it, can only come. Hu levade b'keiche v'yicholti lahavis yesh me'ayim efes hamuchlot. The one that has the ability to create something from complete nothingness is Hashem Himself. That's the domain of atzmos, and that goes back to tzimtzum and the power to withhold, and that is ultimately the kavanah, the intention of creation. So therefore, that's fine. So therefore, nefesh elokis, nefesh habamis. The idea is to find expression in the nefesh habamis, but not only the inner faculties, but also the faculties that are beyond finding expression in the inner mode and consciousness. The forces, the faculties that are beyond clothing themselves into kelim, into vessels. That comes from above. The Eibishter said that when a person does whatever he can, somebody else wants to join the shir. It sounds like
someone's got a problem. Huh?
Yeah. So that when a person does whatever he can to reach the levels of Avodas Hashem to the extent possible by the human being, the Eibishter in turn then gives him a gift from above, and he says, "Here I bestow upon you the revelations of those keiches, of those inspirations that are beyond the normal order of achievement." In order to explain this, how does that happen? So the Rebbe quotes a Gemara, which we quoted last time, but I'll quote it again. The Gemara says like this. It's the Gemara in Brachos Daf Mem. I want the Aleph to be exact. Reb Zera, or as some say, Rav Chinen bar Papa, said, "Observe how the character of the Holy One, blessed be He, differs from that of flesh and blood." Right? Midas HaKadosh Baruch Hu is not kemidas basar v'dam. A mortal can put something into an empty vessel, but not into a full one. But the Holy One, blessed be He, is not so. He puts more into a full vessel, but not into an empty one. For it says, if you will hearken, if hearken you will hearken, if im shomaya tishma, right? It's a pasuk in Shmos. If listen you will listen. It says twice shomaya. Why? This implies if you listened once, you will go on listening. Or if you use the English that you use here, if you will hearken once, you will go on to hearken. And if not, you won't hearken. Right? Another explanation is, if you listened to the old of what you learned, you will listen to the new. But if your heart turns away, you will not. That's the Gemara. So the Gemara says there's midas HaKadosh Baruch Hu and there's midas basar v'dam. Right? Midas HaKadosh Baruch Hu and midas basar v'dam. The character of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, of Hashem, and the character of the human, of the one of flesh and blood. So the simple definition of the Gemara is that we are talking about one which is desirous and one which is not. The Rebbe explains here beautifully, based on what we learned until now, that midas HaKadosh Baruch Hu and midas basar v'dam are two modes of avodas Hashem, two modes of serving Hashem. One is serving Hashem in a way of midas basar v'dam, meaning to say the character of the one of flesh and blood, to the extent humanly possible, and midas HaKadosh Baruch Hu, character of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, of Hashem, is the service of Hashem, or the inspiration which comes from Hashem, on His initiative after man has accomplished what he could by his own strength. Let's see how the Rebbe says it inside. Page Kuf Lav Zayin at the top, chapter 5. They say, "Will be a Inyan to explain this idea. The Hinei Amar Razal, for our sages say in the Talmud, midas basar v'dam in the character of man of flesh and blood. Kli reik and machzik, an empty vessel could receive. Kli molei and a machzik, a full vessel cannot receive anymore. But midas HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the character of HaKadosh Baruch Hu is kli molei machzik, a full vessel receives. Kli reik and a machzik, an empty vessel does not receive. It's explained in a number of places that these two characters, these two ideas, are present, exist in man's service of Hashem. Elo, it's just Shemidas Basav Adam Hi Aveda when the sages refer to Midas Basav Adam, the character of flesh and blood, it's a reference to Avedas Hashem, which serving Hashem, which a person can reach by his own strength. Midas HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and the character of HaKadosh Baruch Hu is a reference to this is the service of Hashem, the inspiration from Hashem, which is drawn down, which is bestowed upon the person milamayla, from above. Concerning this, it said, concerning this, we say that when it comes to Midas Basav Adam, the character of the flesh of the one from flesh and blood, meaning to say the Avedas Hashem, according to this interpretation, the Avedas Hashem, serving Hashem, which a person can reach by his own strength, there it's clear and machzik, an empty vessel receives, a full one does not. What does that mean? The Hinei Nefesh Haba is akdemei teinisei. The Zohar says, this is a quote from the Zohar, that the animal soul, his taina, his claim precedes. If you want to hear the Zohar, I'll quote you the Zohar. He says like this. He brings the pasuk from Breishis La Pesach Chatas Revetz, sin lies near the door. Then he quotes the pasuk from Koheles, from Ecclesiastes, Toiv Yeled Miskin V'Chocham Mimelech Zokin Uksil, that a young and poor child is better, and a young, poor and wise child is better than an old and foolish king. And he says that the young child, that's a reference to the Yetzer Tov, because he's young, because he's only present with the person mitleis ashnin ve'elach, from the age of 13 and on. And he's better than the old foolish king, which is a reference to the Yetzer Hara, because he comes to the person as soon as he's born. As soon as the person comes out to the breath, to the air of this world, the Yetzer Hara is there already. That's why he's called the old foolish king. Right? And he says, Akte B'Tanisa, he goes on and explains that his claim on the person is first. Why? He says, I was here first. I'm here with you since you were born. You know the famous story of the Rebbe Yitzchak Badichever. He once came up to the Amid on Yom Kippur and he wanted to say Kol Nidrei. Standing by the Amid. And he's waiting. Nobody's not starting Kol Nidrei. It's going on and on and on. Finally he says, look, if you're the tzaddik and you're the Goan and you're the Talmud Chacham, you say Kol Nidrei. He put on his talents and he walked away. He asked him what's going on. He says he wanted to come to say Kol Nidrei. So the Yetzer Hara came and stood next to him. He says, what are you doing here? He says, I want to say Kol Nidrei together with you. He says, what do you mean? Today's Yom Kippur, we're doing tshuva. He says, well, I was there with you in all your experiences. He says, well, I was learning. He said, when you were learning, I was there when you were learning. I do mitzvahs. I was there when you did the mitzvahs too. But anyway, he went through all his entire experience, and the Yetzer Hara kept on saying, I was there with you. So he finally got fed up. He says, if you're the man, you say Kol Nidrei, and he went away. Bottom line, the Yetzer Hara is there with the person from the day he's born. So B'meila Akte Mitanise, the Nefesh Habamis comes and says, I'm first. Hainu shenichnas ba'adam kaidem v'nishresh b'ay. The Nefesh Habamis enters the person first, and becomes rooted within the person. Umagam, and particularly, shenischazik yeser behem shechazman. The Yetzer Hara becomes stronger as time goes on. Shenishtamish beharbe, because you use the Yetzer Hara a lot, bachilu shtir, with eating and drinking, and all other worldly matters of this world. What happens when you exercise a muscle? Becomes stronger. The Nefesh Habam is also through the animal soul. Through abundant use, he becomes stronger. Right? It's because of this that when we talk about, in Midas Basav Adam, when we talk about a kli male, a full vessel, what are we talking about? The person is full. Full of what? Hainu shumal l'retzaynei, she's full of desires. Shetoyim ve'emer, the person claims and says, Reitzani b'davazeh, the person says, I want this. V'tzorechani l'davazeh, I need this. Ve'eni yochel iskayim b'davazeh, and I can't exist without the other thing. V'chulu, etc. So he's full of what? Of all sorts of desires. Desires that are obviously not godly desires. And concerning this it said, Kli mole eine machzik, that a full vessel cannot receive. V'hainu. The Rebbe spells it out. Shekashu kli mole, when a person is a full vessel, meaning to say he's full of all these foreign desires, we're not talking about being full of prohibited matters, which completely disturb. Even if the person is full with what? Permissible things, permissible matters. This is a printing mistake. It's supposed to say hamuchrachim. Even things that are necessary, but the person doesn't desire them for godly purposes. We're talking about the basics, eating, drinking, sleeping, things that the person needs to exist. But he doesn't desire them with the intention of l'shem shamayim, of a godly intention. Since he is a full vessel, he can't receive. He can't receive what? Getlichkeit, godliness. So therefore the person needs to be in the mode of an empty vessel. He should empty himself from his physical matters. He shouldn't desire those things that even those things that are permitted. And even those things that are imperative for the person. And then the brackets that are bad. Not that he imagines that they are imperatives. But he should be honest, and he should evaluate that there are things that he really and truly needs. So even those should be what? He should want them al pi Torah, according to the way the Torah prescribes. So lo yachpitz, he should not desire ela baruch nishabem, he should desire the spirituality that is within them. This is the meaning, an empty vessel. What does it mean, an empty vessel? It doesn't mean that he's completely empty from these physical matters, meaning to say that he sort of inflicts himself, right? And deprives himself. No. To the extent that he doesn't eat and doesn't drink. That doesn't mean that he's an empty vessel, that he deprives himself. He doesn't deprive himself. But he doesn't desire the physicality of these things, but rather in their spirituality. Then he's referred to as an empty vessel. Why? For he has emptied himself from the physicality of these matters. And the next part of the Maimar Chazal, the Rebbe continues later on, and that we will do in Mitzvah Shem next week.
Sunday.
Sunday.